will use. And then we'll also look at the effects that that type of parenting has on the child and the parental relationship dynamic. While I do, and I say all of this, help yourselves, have an introspective moment, have a reflection moment, and let's see how useful this information can be for us. Yeah? So when you have an authoritative parent, this is the type of parent who, they were speaking about being approachable. The lieutenant was speaking about this type of parent who is non-approachable, yeah? And because of that, the child withdraws. So this is a parent who is quite approachable, they are reasonable, and they are flexible. And by flexibility, I even mean mind-wise, yeah? Mind-wise, what type of mindset do you hold as a parent? How flexible is your mindset? And attempt to direct the child's activity, you direct, yeah? And then they tend to be quite rational as well, and they're issue-oriented manner, and they don't regard themselves as infallible or divine, like I was saying. They are not superior, right? The type of child that might present from this type of parenting is quite encouraged to think and to be a participant in the family. Because remember, there is room in the parent for flexibility and to be reasonable. So the child tends to feel like they can participate in the family. They feel encouraged to bring forth themselves, their thinking, their opinions, their ideas. So they tend to be a very shared presentation in terms of power. There's shared power between, it's neither power that lies with the child nor power that lies with the child, with the parent. Power is shared in this sense. And the life at home tends to be quite relaxed, it tends to be quite orderly, there is consistency. I want to hammer on the point of consistency. And then, in terms of discipline, what does this type of a parent do? They can affirm, when they are disciplining their child, they're able to affirm. And they use reason as well as power to achieve objectives. They use requests, yeah? They don't impose. And there's incentives, okay? They were speaking about sometimes you just tell your child, don't do, but what about the do's? Yeah? And when I do you notice the do's because you're always noticing the don'ts? Does that make sense? So this parent is aware of that, and so there's incentives in the process, but also in their discipline tools, there's consequences. So you can't just behave either way, the way you like, and there will not be consequences to behavior. This parent is mindful as well that there is consequences to behavior. There is negotiation. This one, Bishop, they don't buy into this one. You don't negotiate with a child. You just tell them. Eh? Bishop believes that you just tell them. How does negotiation look like with a child? Okay, so negotiation looks like I'm going to use one common one, which tends to be a very common one with adolescents when I sit with them. Is the one of curfews. Yeah, what time should I come back home? Right. Or even at home with chores, yeah? So negotiation looks like this. As a parent, I would appreciate, yeah, the language as well matters. As your parent, I would appreciate that you respect the rules, here at home, and you have to show up at 6 o'clock, yeah? Negotiation looks like this. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah? And the child will respond, yes, I do understand, or they don't understand. Yeah? What do you understand mom is saying? Does that make sense? You don't just tell and impose and leave. Yeah? And then when you say, what do you understand mom or dad is saying? They can tell you what they understand. And then, if they have a withholding, they can be like, but mom, sometimes with my friends, we tend to want to do this until maybe 6:30. Can I try 6:30? No, mom is saying no, let's stick with 6 p.m. because da 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 da. It's a conversation. Does that make sense? That's what negotiation looks like. So there is that room where you value that this person has a mind of their own and they can use it. Yeah? So that's what it looks like. And there's also room for conflict resolution. Yeah? We don't do just that thing of then you go and you stay in your room, and then I'm like, it's in my house, you can just stay there. You're not teaching them conflict resolution, yeah? Yes, and I heard them saying, yes, you can stay in your room, but maybe stay 1 hour in there. Then come back. Let's sit and resolve this. So this parent is able to include that in their parenting. You know, you do not just have conflict with it, because conflict is inevitable in parenting. Yeah? This person is a person of their own. So there will be conflict. But you as a parent, you want to also know that there's room for conflict resolution. Your inability to do that is a reflection of how you handle conflict yourself. Okay? And then there's also family council. I won't dive into that. They spoke about it. Making time for family meetings and all of that. And then the effects that this type of parenting can have on the child, it breeds in them the sense of purposiveness and independence, you know? They know that there's room that they can bring forth their opinions. Their opinions are valued, okay? So they will not shy away from telling you what they think as your child. And they positively associate good with grades. Child develops with self-discipline as well. The child is able to focus on the needs as well, their needs and the needs of others. In a way, you are leading a child who can develop emotional intelligence here. Because you are showing it to them. You're saying, I am teaching you how to be considerate as a human being. Does that make sense? Yeah. And the parent-child relationship tends to be quite close, respectful, marked by sharing and communication. The parent encourages the child. It's not just a take or give type of relationship. That encourages the child's development in terms of their independence. They recognize the rights of both of the child and of the children. That's what we call authoritative parenting. And then there's authoritarian parenting. This one is the boss. This parent is the boss. This parent is my way or the highway. This parent is, I know it all as your parent. You are a child, you can't tell me this is my house, I know it, but blah, 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 blah. This is that parent. Are frequently uncompromising, they dictate, they are strict, they are repressive, they attempt to shape and control the child, you know. They have quite a lot of standards that the children don't seem to be able to meet a lot of the times. And so on the part of the child must just obey. And the power lies with the parent. And at home, the environment tends to be tense, it tends to be rigid, it tends to be oppressive. Bazalwane, can I submit this to you? These are not theories in the air. These are things that I know and I have seen. Yeah? Things are rigid at home. There's a sense of withdrawal from the children. The children, they tend to keep in different spaces at home. There's no connection. And in terms of discipline, what this parent tends to do, they yell. They yell a lot when they're disciplining. They tend to shout and yell. Are you that one? Someone probably is. Always shouting. And they command and they order. Yeah? They order the child to do things. Yeah? They don't know how to request. So if you don't request, how will your child learn how to request? Yeah? Remember, every behavior from you is a model to the child. It's a template for the child. So they order the child, they punish the child without any explanation. They don't explain that, this behavior will result in these consequences and therefore punishment or reward. No, they just punish the child. Sometimes they tend to, because of that sense of control, they cannot have room to negotiate, so they tend to bribe their children. When they want their children to do certain things, they tend to bribe them, yeah? And they can be very threatening as well. You know, if you try me, yeah? They tend to throw around threats as well. They value obedience so much. You know, so if they see their child quite obedient, it brings them a sense of fulfillment. They value obedience so much. And so they have quite forceful measures when they do things. Like I said, their way or the highway. So what does this tend to do in the child? The effects it has on the child. The child, remember when I said, there's a stage where the child tends to develop autonomy. Yeah? Their sense of belief in what they can do. Now imagine where a parent is consistently reinforcing the idea that what you do is what they say you must do. Yeah? That means your child will struggle in trusting when they do something. Yeah? Because what they do has to come as a form of, let me say, an order from the parent. Yeah? So they don't develop well in their stages of autonomy. So they tend to have a very low sense of independence as well. Then they tend to also have a low sense of competence. They can't believe in themselves, you know. Negatively associates as well. The child learns to obey out of fear. They're not obeying because, you know, they are attuned to obedience. No, they obey out of fear. And fear of punishment. So the child learns to be subverted and, you know, be manipulated as well. And this, I mean, you will see it when they engage with other people outside of home. You will find that they are easily influenced and manipulated by the people around them because they are used to responding to that type of dynamic. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so the child is so used to being controlled in that way that they you know, also, they will struggle with self-control, and you're going to see this as well, where if the parent is not around, they can be quite unruly and quite uncooperative as well. And then the parent and the child relationship from this type of parenting, it tends to be quite cold, quite rigid, based on fear, like I said. So you parent from a place of fear. Where is that fear coming from? It's your wounds as a parent. Is your psychological and emotional wounds. You know, so you're projecting. They were speaking about mirroring, yeah? There's a lot of mirroring that goes on. That's why I see parenting as a great opportunity. Like, I view it as a great opportunity to be mirrored. And in that way, you are able to transcend some of the limitations that have been there in your life. Without this child, it's sometimes quite unreachable for you to can look at yourself properly as to what type of a person are you, what type of material are you made up of. So parenting tends to provoke sometimes all of that, and if you allow it, it's a great opportunity for you as a parent to start doing some work on yourself. Because if you don't do some work of healing, some work of self-growth and development, I promise you, there's going to be a mini you that is growing, and then there's going to be an adult you in the next coming couple of years, presenting similarly as you, in just a different form and a different body. Yeah? So, that you find that the parent-child relationship has that. So, there is that coldness, there's that rigidity, there's a lot of fear in the child. Verbal interaction between the child and the adult is discouraged, you know? You don't tell me what to do, I am the parent, yeah? So children kind of just blindly have to accept everything, every word that comes from the parent. But that's unhelpful. That's very unhelpful. And then the last one is what we call the neglectful or rather the permissive type of parent. They were speaking earlier about child-led households, yeah? This is where we see a lot of neglect, you know? And therefore, this parent tends to really lack attention. They do not have attention as far as the needs of their child are concerned. Yeah? And so they are often very passive, this parent, very inconsistent. They don't trust themselves as parents towards the parenting of their child. This type of parents, they can even ask from their child. You know, those type of parents who can even consult the child too much about, you know, the decisions of the child. You know, they are very passive. So they're very quite neglectful in that way. They allow the child to regulate themselves. They never ask the child, you know, about any responsibilities as well in the house. And so the type of child that comes from this type of parenting, they're quite subtly encouraged to control others. They're quite controlling the type of child that comes from this type of parenting. They are left to follow their own wants and their own instincts. Yeah, because there's no proper guiding. They are left to their own devices. So this is a very permissive type of parent, neglectful one. And so the power lies with the child in this dynamic. Yeah, and you find that the household very chaotic. So the teacher will attest to seeing this type of presentations, as well as the social workers. Very chaotic, uncontrollable. You know, at home, very uncontrollable and very wild in their behavior as well. You know, so you can see that there hasn't been quite a balanced guiding to going on in the life of this child. They are left to their own devices. They are left to figure out the world by themselves. And when it comes to discipline, the parents will find that they are pleading with the child. You know, when they try something, they are quick to give up. You know, it's not my problem. You know, they do nothing about it. They are quite tolerable and accepting of any type of behavior that comes from the child. You know, so they then will fail in trying to exercise any form of encouragement and control towards the child's behavior. The effects of this type of parenting, we will see the lack of impulse control. These are the children that are more likely to indulge in substance abuse quite early in their development. Yeah, there is a lack of impulse control in this type of child. Yeah, and a lack of morality and social responsibility as well. Negative association, lower social and cognitive competence. The child becomes very self-centered and very demanding, yeah? And the child doesn't learn the importance of consideration of other people. So there's no emotional intelligence going on for this child. And the child develops little self-control, hence the low impulse control in them. And then, the parent and the child relationship, you would have already guessed, it's very weak. You know, there's distance between the parent and the child. The parent makes very few demands, you know, for the child's behavior, and the child goes without limits, and they can feel quite unloved and uncared for by their parent. I want to end on this note. I want you to ask yourself, how has my parenting been like? What does it look like? What tools am I employing in my parenting? Where is the knowledge that I'm using coming from? The things that I'm employing, where are they coming from? The methods that I am utilizing, where are they coming from? Who taught you those methods? Yeah? This is where curiosity comes in. Yeah? Who taught you those methods? And then I want you also to ask yourself, how can I parent with awareness? How can I parent with awareness? Do I recognize every aspect of my parenting? Even with multiple children, 1, 2, 3, as you may have, do I recognize every aspect of my parenting? And then I'm going to leave you with this example. As I was coming in this morning, I come from my practice, so I was even sitting with an adolescent this morning, 16-year-old. Yeah? they told me that they find that their parents can offload a lot of their emotional and psychological burden on them. When you're a parent and you are not aware of your own needs, you are going to make such types of very unhelpful, very unhelpful approaches in the growth of your child. So, as I was sitting with him, I can see that this child has a sense of responsibility that is disturbing a lot. Because remember at the age of 16, they are figuring out who am I. Their identity development is going on there. So as a parent, when you do that, you are disturbing that process of development in them. The child now questions their role. Remember, they're also identity questioning. They are role finding. So when you do that as a parent, you are burdening the child, and you are disturbing a process that already is challenging for them. Yeah? But that is because as a parent, you are not conscious about your subconscious and your unconscious stuff. Yeah? So, and then there was once another 16-year-old. Their father is a pastor. This is not Gandhi, you bishop. But this 16-year-old, their father is a pastor. Yeah? And this 16-year-old, when they brought him in, they said, we really can't get him to open up. The boy was self-harming. This is another thing. Your children do not have emotional language because at home, we do not have emotional language. So when they are feeling overwhelmed, because emotions are part of us, you will be an ignorant Muzalwani to think that your emotions don't matter. Yeah? I saw, like I told you, even that 2-year-old, when she said no, I saw it in her face. That emotion says, do not come through my boundaries. Okay? So emotions are part of us as human beings. And so this young man, he said, I can't open up to those people, and I'll tell you why I can't. I don't think my parents are authentic. I think they're very fake, and I can't take it. And remember, adolescents, they're very truthful. I can't take it. Yeah? And then I approached to understand what he really means by them being fake. Yeah? Then he says, okay, I'll tell you, this is how my father is. On Sunday when we leave, before we get in the car, maybe he's upset with us, he's shouting at us, and I can feel that he's infuriated and he's angry. And then he is just moody all the way to church. You can see this man is angry. As soon as his feet steps on the ground of the church and he sees Azarwan, he starts smiling, he starts shaking there. How are you, my son? How are you, my son? And this boy was like, I can't take it. And this is what I mean. They don't do what we say they must do. They do what they see us do. Thank you so much.
You see where I take my English from?